Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Wine and Witchcraft in May. We have special guest, Tasha.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So, tonight's talk is going to be about deity. So, Justin, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I just think it's a good. I mean, it's a conversation that I think's been going on a little heavily right now in the community, talking about deity and working with deity, and I just think it's a productive conversation. And Brittany and I have both been watching Tasha and getting some of her input from her videos on her channel. So we thought she'd be the perfect guest to be on the show to help lead us a little bit, especially me. I'm new to deity work in witchcraft. So it's still a learning process for me.
I'm really excited to share kind of just my experience working with different deities and kind of what I do every day. Like, just you want to bring it down to your everyday level, right? Like, you just want to make it so it's easy. It doesn't have to be a big show. And I think that's a big thing with deity. People put too much pressure on themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's I'm supposed to be working with a deity. Well, how do I work with a deity? They think that in order to be pagan, you have to work with a deity. That's just not how it works.
No. And
yeah,
I get a lot of comments on videos. How do I work with this god or goddess? How do I do this? How do I establish a relationship? And I feel like I'm always saying the same thing, but it's like approaching any relationship. It's like a friendship. Like, if you feel called to that deity, in my opinion, that's enough. Like, you don't need any more validation. Like, go for it. Work with them, respect them, and enjoy it. Like, enjoy the relationship.
So specifically, Tasha, what deities do you work with?
I'm like the calico cat. I have a few. I have no problem blending different deities, so I kind of have a mix. Primarily, I work with Anubis. I work with Nyx, who's the goddess of night, and I enjoy the Mother Mary. And sometimes when I'm feeling extra spicy, I like to throw Lucifer in there too. And oddly enough, I find Mother Mary and Lucifer sit on the altar together, and I never have any problems. The house hasn't burnt down yet or anything crazy. So, like I say, if it feels good, I think go for it.
Well, I think that's a question that I know that I felt is just not knowing how to connect and not knowing, everyone has their opinions, or you have to be chosen. You know what I mean? A lot of people feel that like you have to be chosen. And that kind of leads into like another thing that I see a heavy conversation more on Instagram is like, what is the role of deity in witchcraft? Because there's so many secular witches, as I have been and still sometimes practice that way, where there is no sort of deity figure or any sort of spirit work. So like, what is your interpretation of as far as like deity in witchcraft? Is it a power source? Is it a religious connection, do you think, or like a worship? I know for me it's kind of more of asking to have a working relationship. Like, this is the type of working I'm going to do. I want you to kind of help me push this forward to do what I want it to do. That's for me personally.
I find in paganism, what's different from like I grew up Christian, as we were talking about earlier, before we became live. And as a Christian, I felt like it was a very different power dynamic. So there was me here, and then there were like priests and other people, and then there was God. And it was like God was the supreme being. We weren't equals. When I found paganism, one of the main things that got me away from the church was that I didn't agree. There should be no God that's so powerful that I can't talk to myself. Why do I need to talk to God or spirit through someone else? Why am I any different than someone? Regardless, like, we're all the same. So I find in paganism, I see the gods and deities as partners, like a working relationship, a friend, someone that's kind of, I show them respect, but I also feel like they're a part of who I am. So we're on the same level, like we're equal. I don't feel like Nyx is way up here and I'm here. Like, I feel like we're on the same level. I think deity's inside of the witch as well. Like, we're our own magical being. And I think when spell work works, when we have those kind of special experiences, that comes from our own power and our own magic. So that's where I also feel like deity is whatever you want that to be. It could be yourself, it could be your own magic, it could be just as simple as the moon and the sun, two heavenly beings that are superior than us. But it doesn't have to be like this. I'm gonna come grovel at the altar. Like you just be besties.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like that's the thing. So many people, when I said I was starting to like talk to Hecate and be introduced to that kind of thing, everyone was talking about this crone figure, and she's never appeared to me that way. It's never felt like that. I've never had that experience. I know everybody's different. It's been more of like a sister who's like 40 something years old, who's like, just cut your shit type energy, not kind of that whole, I don't know, whatever interpretation that is that some people have. I never really had that experience with her. And then, growing up Baptist, we always just prayed directly to God, because I never understood the middleman thing either. I never understood that. And I also never understood, if we're made in his image, how are we not, why are we so unworthy?
Right. Like,
we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So like, how are we not elevated a little bit more than the way, people and the church make you feel?
Well, wasn't it said that the reason why we're in the predicament we're in, or we are who we are, is because the whole sinning thing? So is that maybe the reason why we're not equal to him, because we sinned in the first place? I mean, that's why he's supposed to be above everybody else. But I couldn't, and that's the reason why, when I was trying to find which religion suited me best, I went to church with friends. This whole entire idea that some dude lived in the sky and was more powerful than everybody else, and then you had to basically talk to his son first, and he'll like relay the message. Like,
it's Chinese.
What the hell is that?
It's like, you're playing like, okay, I'm going to tell you the message, and then you can tell that person the message. And that's what I love, how witchcraft empowers you. It makes you feel
accountable,
and it's on you. It's not on someone else to make a connection. And it can be whatever you want. Like, it doesn't have to be like an actual god or goddess. It doesn't have to be a godhead. It can be whatever. Like, if you feel like you're in a holy or spiritual place by walking in the woods, that's good enough, in my opinion.
Right. So I think a lot of new witches, they feel like, okay, I want to do this paganism thing. And then they start reading books and they start walking the path, and they're like, this deity thing, what the hell is this? Oh, I must have a deity. So they're like, well, I can wait for one to pick me, I guess, but how do I know? Or they'll be like, I get to pick one, but how do I know? Like, there's so much confusion, I think, for baby witches, with the whole deity thing. And that's another reason why I wanted to discuss it, to maybe give some clarification to those who are just setting their first footsteps onto the pagan path, or witchcraft path for that matter, that want to work with deity. How do you do it? Do you have to wait for one to come to you? And if you choose to do the whole waiting thing, how does that work? How do they just come to you?
Right.
Well, and I honestly, on that specific topic that you were talking about, I really think that heavily influenced like need to connect with deity from like baby witches is because for so many years, Wicca, witchcraft, and paganism have been synonymous. You know what I mean? If you look back 15 years in the YouTube pagan community, you are Wiccan or you're nothing. And even if you look at these books, there's a lot of videos right now by Thorne and other YouTube creators who really talk about how Wicca has infiltrated witchcraft in almost every publication, and also in paganism, where they're not always synonymous with one another. You don't have to be Wiccan or pagan to be a witch. And I think when you're new to the craft, the assumption is you have to have a deity to practice, especially because all modern religions, it is always focused around a deity. So how do you do this without having something that's bigger, better, and more powerful than you?
Right.
And I think, like, I'm sure for you guys too, like our generation growing up, the big emphasis was on picking that mother and father deity. Every book I read as a teen was, okay, you're going to have a mother deity and a father deity. But what if I don't identify with that? What if I want just to work with a male deity? Or maybe I don't want to work with any gender deity at all. Like, why do I need a mother, father? And I'm really glad, I think for the younger witches, that dynamic is shifting. And I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, because I know when I first was taking my first steps, I read a book. I still have it. Where is it? This one right here. And I think I've showed this before. This was the very first book that I ever read. And Living the Wiccan Life, like we were talking about. And in this book, it did say matron and patron. So I was like, well, shit, I have to find a matron and patron. Well, how do I do that? But in the beginning of the book, it talks about how to start connecting with nature. So, of course, that was one of the first things that I was doing. I was connecting in all sorts of different exercises in different ways with nature. So it came to be that, you know, Gaia and the Green Man were like my matron and patron. And they were for God, a decade, because I thought that that's what was supposed to be. Not to say that I didn't work with them and they weren't actually here in my life. They absolutely were. But I soon realized as I grew and matured as a person outside of my spirituality and, you know, and whatnot, that there's more doors to be opened than just nature gods and goddesses, you know? So yeah. I wasn't even looking for another deity. I was still, you know, doing my thing with my guy, the Green Man, the whole thing. I was deep in ritual. I mean, I was deep in ritual. Like, you could have walked in this door and lit the room on fire. I wouldn't even know you were here. Like, I was in it. And this presence came in that was very commanding, very demanding, like, bitch, shut up and listen to me kind of thing. And I ain't leaving. It was very sexual. It was like and I'm like, what the fuck? And I just snapped my eyes open. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it soon came to me that it was Carnunos. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I just remember looking at my life and where my life was in the sexual area and realizing how it was suffering. And now I realized why he was like, bitch, sit down, shut up. We need to have a talk. That's pretty much what it was. And he's been here ever since. And it's very strange because it's an energy that was in this room, that is still in this room. I can't even describe it. And Justin has actually come in here and felt it. He's like, it's so bizarre that there's that like commanding masculine sexual energy in this room. And I'm like, yeah, that's Cornelius. He sits over there in the corner. Just leave him alone. But like, that's basically how it is. I know some people can't wrap their brain around it, that it's more than just a name. Deity is a real thing. Absolutely. And then, you know, we went to New Orleans, and in New Orleans, you know, Justin and I did a ritual. And during that ritual, we found out that Gaia was going to be leaving me aside. That, you know, I've grown. I don't need her anymore. She'll still be here, but she's basically came through in that working that she was going. I cried. Justin will tell you I cried about it because she had been my matron for so long that I was like, when I found this out that she was going to be taking a step aside, I was like, no,
it's like losing a friend. It's like having a friend move away. Oops, sorry guys.
And she has since moved aside, but now I'm like goddessless at this point, which is a little weird.
Do you feel a longing to find a goddess, or do you feel like you just kind of want to go with it and kind of see if something just shows up?
Well, the reason why I'm laughing is because Justin had this look on his face. So this will probably be when I announce this whole thing going on, because I haven't announced it yet. Justin knows about it. So what had happened was, you know, Justin and I, you know, were throwing the bones. We were doing some divination. And he asked a question. He threw some cowrie. And it came up saying that my goddess was going to find me soon and it would be solidified in July. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I was just, you know, I was sitting here one night. I had done the spell a little bit earlier. I had I had a candle lit. I had my Gaia candle lit. And I'm sitting here and I was watching YouTube videos on different goddesses just to see who's out there, because, you know, any of these goddesses could come into my life and I wanted to know a little bit about them when they do arrive, if that's what's going to happen. I don't know if I was going to find them or they were going to find me. I had no idea. So I'm watching this video and I was deep into it, and it just happened to just go like this for some reason. Now, mind you, I don't have AC in here and I don't turn the fan on. I have a thing against air. Justin's been here. He knows I hate AC. He sweats his balls off in this room because I have the vent closed.
I would die in your heat. Can I just say that? Like, as a northern, like up in Canada here, like I would die.
Yeah, you probably would. Because we live in air conditioning. I mean, my house is air conditioned, but I don't like the vent open, so I close the vent. And I don't have so there's no airflow, is the point I'm getting at.
It's awful.
When Justin's here, I have to turn the ceiling fan on or else he'll melt. So I just happened to turn around and look at the altar. I really don't know what the hell I was looking at. I just, for some reason, I had a need to turn around and look at it. In the middle of this video, the candle had blown out. Nothing wrong with the candle. It wasn't like because I always look at the scientific reasons behind everything before I go to magic. I'm like, okay, the candle is a perfectly fine candle. It's not like a Dollar Tree candle or something like that, a dollar store candle. It's a good candle. The flame was high about 20 minutes ago, so it's not the wick. There's no airflow in here. What the fuck? I happened to look back at the video that I have been watching, and it was like a 20-minute video. It was on Nyx.
Yeah.
So that was the reason why we were asking you what we asked you before the show went live. So whether or not she's the one, I haven't clarified yet because there's some working that still needs to be done to figure that out. And again, like in our divination that we had done with Through the Bones, it was said to be that July would be solidified. But I still find it fucking very strange that when I was watching that video, I had spent an hour watching, videos on Hecate, videos on the Morrigan, videos, all sorts of different ones. But the minute I start watching the next one, I turn around and the candle's blown out.
And that's Nyx. That's Nyx. Like, honestly, That's so Nyx because that's how she is. Like, she's a little bit sneaky. Like, she's not going to come right out and be like, oh, here I am. Like, she's the goddess of the night. So she blends in and she kind of hides in the shadows. And my experience with her is that I get like a motherly feel, but it kind of from a distance. Like, she's not right on you. Like, she's going to be like, I'm going to give you a little sign, but I'm going to make you think about it and question your sanity a little bit before I'm going to like really
that's exactly what it was. And the weird thing is, not 2 or 3 weeks after that, after fighting for 6 months to stay with the company that I work with, I thought I was going to have to quit the company to find out that they ended up putting me overnight. So
yeah, she's like, hey, you're going to spend time in my time.
Like, it's almost, I mean, I was doing so many different work things, you name it, I was doing it. And I was actually trying to stay on the daytime shift. And then when she pops up in here, and I'm guessing that's what that was, because there's no scientific explanation for it. She pops up in here and boom, like 3 days later, I get a job to work at nighttime, overnight.
I think that's her.
Well,
I think that's her.
That candle was originally meant for something else. Okay, I'm not going to say what. Mm-hmm. And she cleansed it and she made it into a Nyx candle. And when she did that, the candle burned perfectly after that.
No, it wasn't a Nyx candle. It was, I had written on it. It's still over there. I had written on it, goddess, or whatever goddess it may be.
Yes.
This is basically your lighthouse, your beacon, your welcome here. And I just kind of made it a beacon light. Like I re-blessed the candle to be, like, if you want to come, you're more than welcome to. Like, I'm here, I'm willing. And it was that night that I turned around and the freaking candle blew out. And the funny thing is, ever since I accepted the fact that it was her, the shit doesn't blow out.
Yeah,
that's her. Because now she's like, "Hey, you've acknowledged me." Like,
exactly.
She's a crafty little bitch.
Yeah.
I did want to say it is 9:20, so I did want to take a moment to just welcome everyone here. September Crow, Heather C, Debbie, Owlvine Green. Hello, lovely. It's nice to meet you. We appreciate you. Debbie, you look fabulous, Justin. Thank you so much. Owl Green said we look amazing, wonderful. We're beautiful. I also did exactly like glamour shots. I also wanted to let everybody know that this is our very first Wine and Witchcraft that is sponsored by Bloodbath Products. They sent me this body mist that is absolutely lovely. It's the scent Midnight, which is so funny that we're talking about Nyx and the scent is Midnight, but whatever. So it's a wonderful, wonderful shop. If you guys go to bloodbathproducts.com, if Brittany wants to put in a coupon code, if you type in the coupon code, you will get 15% off your order. So it's a Wine and Witchcraft exclusive discount. If you go over there, you can get a 15% discount. And it is all horror themed. So it's a horror themed bath and body products. This is like off their website. It says handcrafted in the still of the night with only the finest ingredients. They're vegan, organic, cruelty-free, no parabens, no sulfates, no artificial colorants. And the best line is your flesh is dying to try it. So it's absolutely lovely. You guys need to try it out.
So WAW15 is the code. Wine and Witchcraft 15. You get 15% off of your whole entire order.
Yes.
They are. I did a video. You guys have probably seen it on their incense line, to die for. But they will be sponsoring us until the next year.
Yes. So do not forget about the coupon code. And also, while we're talking about like promotional situation, I did want to let you guys know Wine and Witchcraft has its own channel. So if you go to Brittany's channel or my channel on the recommended channels list, you will see the Wine and Witchcraft YouTube. Go subscribe to that. We're hoping by January of this coming year that we will be going live exclusively on the Wine and Witchcraft channel. But until then, we will be going live on all 3 places. So just wanted to let you guys know about that.
Yeah, so eventually we do plan on not leaving our channels, but taking Wine and Witchcraft and making its own trademark, its own entity, its own everything. It'll have its own channel. So that's going to probably happen January of 2022. Until January of 2022, we will stream on all 3 channels. But my suggestion is to all follow that channel, because eventually it will switch over to not being aired on my channel or Justin's channel any longer. It'll be its own separate entity, own brand, as it were. But I want to thank you to Bloodbath Products for giving us this sponsorship. Every month, we're going to do a little segment where we're going to talk about the product that they've been giving to us. We're going to review it so you guys will know what we think of their products and the different kind of product and whatnot. So she was gracious enough to give us, all of our watchers here at Wine and Witchcraft, a 15% off of their entire order. So definitely go ahead and use that, because it's worth it. Trust me, you will not regret it. You will
not regret it. And the way that it's marketed is so funny. So this is body spray, but they call it stench reducer.
I love it. I need that.
It is all, their whole tagline is purveyor of horrors. It's all horror themed, which I love. That it's just amazing. It's wonderful. You guys have got to check them out. And to be organic and just cruelty free.
Right. And the artwork is old school, like comic book horror.
Yes.
You know, and they use charcoal with their incense, so it's better on the lungs, better for the air, whatnot, cleanses the air at the same time. But their whole entire theme of their products is just genius, honestly.
It is genius. And this is what I'm wearing on my lips, since I went a little crazy today, okay? Because partly I felt like I needed to be dynamic. I can't speak. I literally demonic. I need to be demonic. Okay. This is almost gone. So that's what's happening here. But this is collab. This is a liquid lipstick. It's Secret Truce. Okay. This is Rachel's. But I'm wearing it because I'm beautiful.
I love the channeling of the inner witchy Boy George. Like I have a thing for Boy George and Culture Club. So when you put that hat on and did your lips and did your makeup, I was like, oh shit, I'm fucking loving this. Because I have a secret crush on Culture Club. It's a thing. I don't know. Don't ask.
Well, it's also because, we have a mortician on the show.
Yes, that is another thing I want to talk about. Okay, I just have to say for everybody watching, all the 14 people that are watching our show right now, does anybody else see that she looks like Hilda from Sabrina? Because I'm sorry, it's uncanny. It is uncanny to me.
I'm your very own Aunt Hilda.
Yeah, she looks like Aunt Hilda. And the funny thing about it is she works in a mortuary. So Tasha, talk about working there, how you work towards it, why you wanted to work there, and how that influences your spirituality.
So I from a young age was interested in what happens at the funeral home. I've always been drawn to death, always. And it made perfect sense that I would end up working with Anubis later in life. But it was just something that always really, really interested me. I wanted to get into a profession that allowed me to help people. Like I really wanted to, and I think it's also part of being a witch is like you're kind of naturally wanting to heal, be there, help, support, right? You can't hex if you can't heal, right? So you gotta have balance. And but I wanted to help the community and everything. So I got into that and began early on out of high school working at the funeral home. And at that time I was like way too immature. And so I left, did something else, and I just missed it so much. Like it was the only thing I wanted to do. For the 5 years that I was away, it was like, I need to go back. I need to do this. Like it's a lot of funeral directors say it's a calling. And I believe that. Like I do think you're called to that kind of work. And it just was nagging at me all the time. And then I'm working with Anubis, which kind of happened like when my grandfather passed away. I just immediately felt this comforting presence, and I interpreted that very young as Anubis. So he was always kind of there on the outskirts. And then I was starting to put pieces together, and it's like I'm in a position where I could dedicate my career to my God, and I can actually work in that role. And I'm very lucky that way. So then I decided, okay, I can take this to the next level. And then I went to school and got licensed. So I'm a licensed funeral director and embalmer. So I do a little bit of both. And Anubis is the god of mummification and embalming. So it just kind of worked out perfect. And I'm able, when I'm doing my work, it's spiritual for me because I can embody him. And I can think like if I'm meeting a family or I'm sitting with someone, I can kind of embody that gentle, guiding presence of Anubis, and I feel him with me all the time. And then it allows me to, I like that I'm a witch in our community because there are pagans die too, witches die too. Unfortunately, we all die. And I'm really glad that I can provide a service to other witches because so many people don't realize, like, you wouldn't believe the number of people who say, like, well, I'm a witch, can I have a funeral service? That's so sad to me.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking to me. Of course you can have a funeral service. Every person's entitled to a funeral service. You shouldn't feel like you can't go into your funeral home and say, hey, I'm pagan and this is what I want. When I was in school, it was taught to us to embrace all faiths. We actually had a religion course. Witchcraft and Wicca paganism was part of that course, which I thought was really cool.
Wow.
Now,
that's awesome.
We were the last page in the book. Everybody else got several. We got 2, but we got 2 pages in there.
Wow.
So
I mean, I guess it's better to be at the table than not at the table at all.
Right? That's what I thought. I was like, you know what? At least we're in the book. Okay. And to be able to support fellow witches in a time of need and to be able to be an information source has become like a huge part of my path. And just having Anubis there to be able to invoke him literally while I'm doing work that he was believed to have done is super cool. And I'm really lucky that way.
That is super fantastic. And it emphasizes the whole Sabrina story for me because they had a mortuary. But the funny thing about that is, I was talking to Tasha before we went live. I said, when I first met you on YouTube, you know, I kind of fangirl for a moment because I fell in love with you. And then I'm like, but she reminds me of somebody. I can't fucking put my finger on it. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, oh my God, she's Hilda. And then when I found out that she had graduated mortuary school, I'm like, oh my God, she really is like from the show.
I'm just living the Hilda life.
100%.
I mean, to have someone be a voice for our dead, that is so fucking beautiful. I fucking love that. Now you just need to move down to Florida and do it for us down here.
I got your backs. I will travel. I will go.
I mean, I think it's important because death is so important, and I know for me, death has affected my craft and just wanting to connect with my ancestors. So I think death is a very important part of should be a part of everybody's practice and perception of life and how we live and how we practice. And I don't know. I think death is something we have to embrace. So I don't know. I think
there's no secret formula to live forever, at least not yet. So even the wrinkle creams don't work. So let's get realistic here.
Yeah, we've got some product at my work that some days I'm like, man, it takes the wrinkles out of the old gals. Like, and I'm just like, if I could just inject it like right in my sleep lines.
I know mine is so bad. I have bad. My lines
like
are
I
bad.
have a permanent like wrinkle here. Like I don't know if I frown when I sleep or what, but some days I'm just if I could just plump that up. Like how bad can it hurt, really? The dead people don't complain. Like I can't be that bad.
I mean, that's just, I don't know. That's just so amazing to me. But yeah, I wanted to touch upon that because I watched you go through school, you know, because watching on YouTube for years now. It's just kind of one of those things like, now we get to celebrate you. Yay! Congratulations!
I did it.
And all your success.
It was a really intense program because you're working. What people don't often know is when you go to mortuary school, you're working full time as a funeral director apprentice. So you're full-time work, full-time course load, 2 years plus on call at night, and you're doing all of this, right? Like you're in school all day. You're working funerals, you're working visitations till 8, 9 o'clock at night. You're going home, you're on call all night. You could be called out at 3 o'clock in the morning, woken up, you're on the road. Hollywood, I find, likes to show that like it's the ambulance that's always taking dead bodies, right? But in reality, it's funeral directors.
Right.
And so it was intense, and I'm very, very lucky to be at the end of it. And now I can kind of take and add my spirituality to my work life, which is so important. Like if I can't make money being a professional witch, I think this is the next best thing because I get to be witching, but also do like what I've wanted to do. And
didn't you I remember you saying that you had to put your side tarot business on hold because you were just too damn busy to even like take a piss kind of thing.
Yeah, like it was intense. Like I had to, and you have to cut things out when you're going back to school, right? Like you got to kind of balance it. So unfortunately, tarot, it was like, if I'm going to cut anything, it's going to have to be tarot for now. And now I'm back doing that again, which is awesome. But yeah, it was intense. It's intense to carry around dead people. You got to do a lot of work for that.
I'm sure. I mean, that's emotional and physical and spiritual. I mean, that's a heavy hitter for real. I mean, that has to be.
Yeah. I mean, going through radiology school, I know that was probably you kind of understand how much you have to sacrifice just to go through school.
It is. It's a full-time thing.
Yeah. I'm a delinquent and I dropped out of college to become a mom. But hey, look, being a mom was fucking hard, okay?
Yeah, right.
They said. It would be fun, they said.
It's when I was in school, they said they were like, funeral directing, being a mortician or what have you, is the second oldest job next to being a mom. So, there you go. And prostitution.
True.
That's what I want to do. I want to start an OnlyFans. After I have bariatric surgery, I'm starting an OnlyFans. I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
So, Tasha, working with Anubis and working with Nyx, did you find them or did they find you?
I think they found me. I think like Anubis, definitely. Anubis was just kind of, it was natural. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, it just, I feel like he's actually been with me my whole life and I just didn't realize it until he made himself more aware. But I was in the shower. Like, and that's it. They will find you anywhere. I was in the shower. Minding my own business. Obviously, as one does, right?
Unless you have an OnlyFans.
Minding my own business.
This kind of thought came into my head, this voice, and it said, your grandfather died. And I was like, what? And I got out of the shower and I towel dried and Anubis, I saw this vision of this jackal. Like I kept thinking of this jackal, and my dad called me about 20 minutes later, said your grandfather died. It was crazy. And that is
crazy.
Ever since that experience, I just knew I had a connection to Anubis. Now, I do find like it's difficult sometimes because I never want to become another white person on the internet, being an expert, right? on another culture's deity or different gods, but it's just I have this natural connection to him, so I just try to be as respectful as I can and not try to be like act like I'm some expert, but it's just from a really natural spot and it just makes sense. So we kind of fell into it. And then Nyx was, I was searching, like I had decided I wasn't going to be Christian anymore, and I was a young little witchling. And I was kind of like, okay, in that pressure, like we were talking about, find that mother, father gods. And I just kind of immediately started looking at Greek mythology, and then Nyx like stood out to me like a sore thumb. And I immediately was like, okay, that's my lady, that's her. So I guess I sought her out. She kind of sought me out. And it just, again, it made sense. She was the first female deity that I found a connection to outside of Mother Mary. So it was really intense and the complete opposite. You know, Mother Mary, very gentle, very kind, very loving. I get comfort from her, you know. I think roses and pearls and pretty things. And Nyx, it was like bird claws and beaks and feathers and the night sky and darkness. And it was completely the opposite. It was exactly what I needed at the time. It was exactly what I needed. And she just hasn't wavered. Like other gods have come and go. Like Aphrodite and I have a weird like relationship where sometimes I really feel like I want to work with her. And then other times I'm like, you're just too needy. Like I feel like she wants offerings all the time. And I'm lazy. Like I need my gods to be like, hey.
I can't be an official devotee because like I can't get up every morning at a set time. I can't give you this. Honey, all I want to do is feed myself. You see this body? Okay.
Time. I want my snacks. Like that's my priorities.
You want this wine? Honey, this is my wine.
I want it to be easy and that works, and that's what's beautiful about witchcraft and paganism and all of that is that it can be easy if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be like complex every day, you know.
Right. I wonder this, and Brittany and I have had conversations about this, and we touched on this before we went live. Do you think that deities or any specific deity actually was a living being, human or otherwise, or do you think these are just like archetypes for energy sources or different types of energies? What is your interpretation of deity?
I kind of interpret deity almost more on the archetype sense. Like I think people from the beginning of people, we've been trying to find a meaning. We've been trying to figure ourselves out. I think as humans, we're all so different. So I think naturally we're inclined to want to find divinity in that and like the different facets of people. So if that's where like we have gods for so many different things. Like we've got gods for the house. We've got gods for love, death, whatever. And I think that's us like interpreting those natural archetypes in our society into divine things. And I think the more worship or time or energy that you spend, it has to go somewhere. And that's what makes them real to me.
See, I agree. I almost view it like a candle. And I know that sounds weird, but I feel like, you know, if I sit down and I am working with Hecate or I'm feeding that, quote unquote, I know that's not, some people are not going to appreciate that term, but you know, when that energy goes somewhere, because, you know, matter cannot be destroyed nor created. It's just reinvented in certain ways. So if you have, like you're saying, for centuries, people, you know, sending all this energy to this deity, it becomes real based on the energy that we're transferring to them over centuries and centuries. So that's kind of how I feel about it too, is it's more of an archetype rather than an actual physical being. But I go back and forth on that. But I just think it's a very interesting conversation to have about how we interpret it.
See, I agree with Heather saying, I think some gods are more archetypes and some are born of legendary figures. I agree with that. And I also, you have to kind of look at, you know, let's look at Jesus. He existed. Yes. He was a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of witches that practice hoodoo that take the Bible and especially Psalms and put it into their craft, that also follow Jesus in that, not necessarily the Catholicism form, but as the God form. And he was a real person.
Mm-hmm.
He walked this earth. So I kind of agree with Heather that some deities are archetypes, are, you know, forces of energy that have taken on a certain persona that we work with to aid us, to help us, to heal and be and present our magic to the universe. But I also think there are some deities that did very much exist on this planet, whether it be, you know, AD, BC, whatever it may be. They did exist as actual human beings. So that's just my opinion. I think it's 50-50. I think it's both, personally.
I would completely agree with that. I would completely agree with that, because I think over time, I think like what Tasha is saying is, it's like, take Jesus, for instance. You know, a lot of what Christianity is it's picking apart, you know, Jewish mysticism and taking out the things they don't like to kind of colonize Jewish people. That's just my interpretation. But that's how I feel about it in certain ways, is they take all the mysticism out of it to kind of fit ways to control people. And I just wonder how much of that energy was created after the life of Jesus and how much was actually physically here. Now that it's really relevant in how you work with a deity, because I don't think it's relevant. I'm very, I like to assess every aspect of deity and how I work with deity, just because I think it's productive to know why you feel the way you feel and where that comes from.
It does, because I think knowing everything that we could possibly know, whether it be positive or negative or neutral in the middle, is beneficial to our paths. You know, it's the more knowledge, the more power that we can possess. And I think learning from other people, and in some cases agreeing to disagree, but I think hearing everybody out as far as what they believe, as far as deity is concerned, and gods and goddesses and Catholicism and Christian witches and all that kind of stuff, I think is really important for us to listen to each other, to listen to both points of view, because I think everybody has a point. We all do.
What difference does it make? Like, I've never understood the sometimes criticism of Christian witches, because it's like, what difference does it make to me if you feel comfort working with Jesus? Like, Jesus, how is Jesus any different than Zeus or Odin or somebody else? Like, it's all like, what am I trying to say? Like, they're all faces in my mind of the same divine being, whatever that is.
See, I agree with you on that. I think what it is, and Brittany and I have had extensive conversations about this, I think it's more so about what quote unquote devotees do in the name of Jesus, or in the name of Zeus, or in the name of Hecate. If I go out and stand on the side of the road and throw rocks at people for not believing in Hecate, is it me who's bad, or is it Hecate? It's going to be Hecate. So it's that interpretation of how you pull from that scripture or that belief system to kind of empower your own bigotry or whatever drives you. But, you know, I think witchcraft even is a relative term, because if you look at things that happen in the Catholic Church, if you take it out of the church and put it in front of an altar, it's witchcraft. You put it in a church, you put Jesus on the cross, and suddenly you're Catholic. So I feel like a lot of things, even in the craft, whether it's religious or just practice, I think our perception of things definitely dictates how we believe based on our own experiences, you know?
I concur.
I agree completely with that. I think it's so personal, and I think that's what's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have more open, non-judgmental conversations about people's relationships with God or divine or deity or whatever, because it's so fascinating. You can learn so much about someone, about how they interpret what is deity, what is the divine. It's very interesting. It's an important conversation.
And I think it's interesting to me, because the funny thing is when I realized that possibly Nyx was stepping into my life, I was like, well, let me look up all my peeps and like see if they made any videos about it. And yours was one of the first ones to pop up talking about Nyx, and I'm like, well, shit. So you know, the funny thing is this. I haven't dedicated myself to her or anything like that. I still have to figure out what is what and who is who and all that kind of good jazz. This is just an occurrence that had happened, and you know, I'm pretty much probably positive she's the one that's stepping in, but I haven't solidified that yet. But
I think she's showing, like, okay, listen, This is another way Nyx can be super sneaky. When I made that Nyx video, I was wearing this plaid. I was going full Canadian. And because today I was like, hey, I'm going on, like, I got to represent Canada. I got to wear the buffalo plaid. I have it on again. I had no idea about your connection with Nyx. And here's that same garment, like, again, like, to me, that's weird. Like, that's how Nyx works. Like,
right.
Weird, just little things. Like, things you may not even notice are right there. Like, I don't even remember what outfit I had on. But I remembered that. And I'm like, well, here I am, right?
But that's the weird thing is it's very prevalent, but it's not that, I wouldn't say that I'm scared. It's more so I still have attachments to the whole Gaia thing.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. So she told me about all this and I knew nothing. And I was ecstatic. I'm like researching, looking at everything, telling her all this. She's like, well, I watched a couple of Tasha's video. Go watch them. So I watch them. So I don't know, a couple of weeks go by. And when me and her are going through something spiritually, we typically like keep it to ourselves. We're like brother and sister in that way. And then we're like, so this isn't really working out. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean it's not working out? She's like, I just don't feel like she's here. And I said, well, what have you done to work with her? She goes, I'm just not connecting. I was like, but what are you doing? Well, I really haven't done anything. I said, okay. Well, didn't Tasha say in her video, like, maybe you need to get acquainted with her kids? Maybe you need to go through these processes. And she's like, I don't need to hear that right now. And I was like, you just need to let it go. And if you want it to happen, I was like, you need to show some initiative. Maybe she wants to feel appreciated. Maybe that's what she needs, is for you to come to the table and say, look, I'm here. I'm paying attention to you.
She's a hard-working woman. She's dragging the night sky across the world every night. Like, that woman don't sleep.
But that's the thing is, I think that I've been in such denial. And like I was saying earlier, you know, when we did that working in New Orleans, you know, the place of hoodoo, the place of magic, you know, when it came through and it was very evident, it wasn't just the bone throwing, but it came through like very evident that Gaia was going to be stepping aside. Not that she was going to be leaving, but she was going to be stepping aside. Hey, go, we did our thing. I got the things I got to deal with. You do you, boo. Yeah. That kind of energy was kind of stepping out. I'm kind of like, oh, well, fuck. I mean, I cried. Like, I got that upset because I had been with her so long. I'm like, you can't leave me now. Like, what the fuck? What am I going to do? So I think that I'm still kind of angry. Yeah, I'm still kind of angry that this, you know, Nyx walking in. I'm like, bitch, you get you have big shoes to fill. So go sit in the corner until I'm ready with you.
Like, who are you strolling in here?
Yeah, exactly. So I think I've been kind of hesitant.
When Brittany brought it up, she's like, you know, I feel like she's stepping out. Yeah, obviously. And Brittany's like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? And I said, look back at all of our voice memos that we send each other. Listen, look at the pictures, look at the workings. I said, when was the last time we've ever discussed Gaia? When is the last time you've ever even mentioned her? Mm-hmm. And Brittany was like, I don't know. I just don't.
Cernunnos.
Just heavy. And it's like, it's just naturally, I'm like, if it's naturally going that way, maybe it's just time. Maybe it's time. You never know.
And I think, like, relationships, right? Like, you break up with someone and, like, you hate them so much. But then a few weeks go by and you start thinking about that relationship and you're like, they weren't so bad, but you know they were an asshole. You know, not that guy is an asshole. Let me clarify that right now. But you know it wasn't working. And then, but we look back at our relationships with like rose-colored glasses. And I think with deities, when we go our separate ways, we look back to those good times and we want to fulfill that. And when a new energy steps forward, it's uncomfortable because it's new and it's different.
Exactly.
And like a new relationship, and then you end up with this new lover who's 10 times your past lover, and then you forget all about them. And I think sometimes with deities, it can be like that, where someone new's coming in and it's like, okay, this is weird. It's different. But as you explore it, it'll become a little more comfy. And Gaia, I think she would always be there.
Oh, she definitely is. Like, I have her now over on my divination altar. She works with my moon goddess. She's overdoing. She handles my divination now. She has her place, but she's not my matron anymore. Right now, up there is just Cernunnos, and that's it. You know, with Nyx, I've just kind of been a bitch to her. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of like, who are you? You filthy little slut.
I feel like she would respond to that. Like, because she's sassy too.
Yeah, no, and the funny thing about that is, and this is what happened was, you know how I told you with the candle blowing out shit? Well, when I was like, bitch, whatever, fuck you. I was like, fuck you. I don't need you, you know, because I was spiritually and mentally and physically not ready.
Right.
And so her candle stopped lighting completely.
That's
fucking shit to stop lighting.
She'd be like,
and so then when I talked to Justin, I'm like, maybe I need to actually like meditate and just kind of do a meditation, you know, specifically, you know, contacting her, you know, mental stem to mental stem, you know, the candle fucking lights and doesn't shut off now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just one of those things where I picked up the 7-day candle. I have looked at it like extensively, like, is there anything physically wrong with it? Because I do that. I'm like, okay, I do science first. Is the candle a piece of shit? Is the wick misplaced? Does the wax suck? Like, was it manufactured wrong? I look at everything before I go to magic, just so I can rule common sense out. There was nothing wrong with this motherfucking candle. Nothing. So I've come to the point now where I just have to look. She's here with Cornelius is one corner of the room in his little fluffy chair, and she's in the other corner, which is kind of like, you know, come on, we have things to do. Can we wrap this and do this? That's kind of how the energy I feel now in this room kind of ticked off, like annoyed with me kind of energy.
Yeah.
Well, it was so funny because when we got back from New Orleans, I was so ready to embrace this conjure folk. I'm going to break out, you know, the Virgin Mary. I'm going to connect with what I'm comfortable with and also incorporate Hecate when I feel that it's right. So I came back feeling rejuvenated. She's like, I'm not going in that room.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? She's like, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, nope, I'm salty about it. I said, okay, be salty. That's fine.
For a week, I wouldn't come to the witchy room. I came back from New Orleans and I had the spiritual experience of my life. And I wouldn't set foot in here because I was afraid to have to say goodbye. So I was, you know, to guy in the whole damn shit. So I threw my witchy, you know, haul that I had bought in New Orleans in the room, like literally threw it on the floor and closed the door and walked away. Here you go, bitch.
It's a grieving process. You're in the anger phase. It's all good.
It's just funny it's so funny to see her go through this because I'm just learning about this, and a part of it's like coming home for me in a different way. Yeah. So for me, it's like exciting. I mean, she had to push me towards Hecate. She's like, you can't ignore the signs anymore. And so it's been all good, but then to watch her, it's really been more of an emotional, heavy experience because I can't imagine working with her for 15 years and then feeling like it's just not the same. Like, it's just not, because everything you do, she works. I mean, she talks about this, but she works so heavily with her god and goddess and everything that she does. It's a part of her daily life. So to feel that void, I mean, she's not just saying it. It was heavy for her. It still is heavy for her, understandably.
I remember when we did the working in New Orleans, and when you told me like she's leaving, and when I started crying, you just looked at me like,
yeah,
what do I do? She's crying. What do I do?
But it's like you come to love that being, like that. She's been there for you for your whole path. Like, you've grown. I guarantee you've grown so much in 15 years. So
yeah,
she saw you through all of that, and then it's like, why is the line disconnected now? Like,
right.
What happened?
I mean, she was there for the birth of my kids.
Right. Like that's so massive and so important.
But I think it's really important. I wanted to highlight Dana's comment here. I had a moment with Santa Muerte with hell. When hell was coming in too, I was like, well, doesn't one have to replace the other? No, actually, Santa Muerte was like, nope, same. You know what I mean? So there's that too. And that's why Tasha had asked you, you know, who do you work with? You're like, well, you know, I'm a calico cat, you know, so it's a good thing to talk about because people think you have to work with just one.
Yeah.
Or two. I mean, you can work with multi deities. One does not have to replace another.
No, and I think you can also worship and work with different deities from different pantheons, as long as you're doing that in a respectful way. That's something that always irritated me about the old witchcraft books from like the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
Was like, you can't work with a Greek god and a Celtic god because they won't get along. And I always felt like, really? Like, are the divine that petty? Like, I know they can be jealous. Like, I know they're like us, but really? Like, it never jived with me. And I feel like now, like, thank God for the younger generations of witches coming up, because I find they're so much more open to just working with what works for them, and I love that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And I mean, who are we to? I don't know. I feel like it's kind of misogynistic to feel like anybody knows a deity so well that they can dictate what they will and will not tolerate. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Each god and goddess, like, just from my own experience, you look at Hecate and the modern interpretation of her, and you know, now there's archaeologists and anthropologists and everyone talking about, you know, her having ties to East Asia and a whole other realms and beliefs around her that aren't even significant to the modern day view of her. So I think through every generation and centuries, our interpretation of each god and goddess changes. But I think just like the Smiling Hag said, and it kind of goes hand in hand, it's like divinity comes to everyone differently based on how they're going to best receive them, how they're going to best understand them and work with them. So I think it's all, again, relative to each person and their experience and where they are in life.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why I want to post that about the Smiling Hag. I saw that and I really agreed. And it's kind of like, you ever seen those movies? What was it? Bruce Almighty or one of them, where God came to him in different forms, and like he's like, "Wait, you're so and so," and he's like, "Well, I thought I'd come to you in the best way you can receive me." Same thing with the movie The Shack. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It was a book and that turned into a movie. I read the book, even though I'm not Christian at all. It was just a really good storyline. And then I saw the movie, and when God came to him, he was like, "Okay, you're a fat black lady," and you know, she was like, "Well, I'm coming to you in the best way that I figure you can connect." And he's like, "Oh," you know, like a light bulb went off, you know? So I think that is very important, that for me, with, you know, connecting with Carnunos, he knew that if he walked in quietly, he was like, "Hey girl, hey," it wasn't going to work.
You would have been like,
"Bitch, sit down, shut up, and listen to what I have to say."
Yeah,
it had to be a commanding energy, because I think that at that point, like, he knew that I needed some help in the whole, you know, dealing with masculine energy. I needed help with dealing with the whole sexual energy thing. Like, my whole sex life was because it was a mental thing. It was all screwed up in my head. But he needed to come and be like, "Okay, we're gonna have to work for a while. We're gonna have to do some workings." And he's been here for about a year now.
Let me tell you something. That energy is. Oh, that energy. I'm not even gonna lie. When I came in there, I looked right at the statue and I said, "When are you gonna fuck me?" That's literally what I said to him. And he was like, "Back off of my man."
Every Beltane, I just wait for him to come.
In which way?
Out in the forest, like, waiting. Take me, forest
Give me
man.
your seed. Give me your seed, forest man.
My poor husband, I'm always like, you know, like, I'll be joking about things, and I'm like, you know, it's kind of hot, and he's always like, "Oh God, Tasha, like, what now?" I'm like, "You ever think like half goat men are kind of hot?" And he's like,
Yes.
"No," and I'm like, "Really? You didn't have a thing like, no, like Mr. Tumnus, Narnia?" Like, hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Like, oh my God. Like, okay, never mind. This is bad. I'm not gonna say it. Yes, I am. What am I talking about? There's a scene in AHS Coven where Queenie, I don't think it was consensual.
I know.
When I tell you I got a chub, I ain't even lying. I was like, I was bending over the couch, honey.
Yeah,
Ran me.
Like, lady boner straight from Canada.
Yes. And the Canadians don't lie about their boners.
No. That's what we're known for. Maple syrup and boners.
Yes. What better way to stir maple syrup than with a hard, hot cock? I have spit wine everywhere.
I'm gonna have to find some maple syrup company to sponsor this.
Oh my God. Oh, fuck.
Oh shit.
But I will say, like, when Hecate, you know, was trying to get my attention, I was kind of in a place where I didn't believe any other gods or anything existed. I was there. And when I, you know, was convinced to kind of be open to it, I was able to kind of let that wall down. Let me tell you something. When it literally was like opening a little hole, and it just like a vortex getting sucked in, of just feeling not here, like not on this plane is what it felt like. And I was sending videos to Brittany, and I'm like, I don't know what is going on. Something like it overcame me.
Like you were breaking out in cold sweats. It was weird.
It was so weird. And anytime I say her name, it's like I heat up from the inside. Like I feel it. It's different than when I invoke Jesus or work with Mary. It's different. It's not the same. It's more of like a like that's what it feels like. Like there's a punch behind it. Like when I say it, it means something, and like be careful when you say it. That's what it feels like. And
like
I was just like, yes. And it was like, okay, so I was wrong. There's other things going on here. And so I'm going to step back because
she also wouldn't leave you alone, because didn't it start with like dead frogs at your doorstep or something?
Frogs, snakes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes. And then crows and weird ass shit was going on. And I had pictures. He was showing me pictures of this shit. So he wasn't lying. And I'm like, oh Lord Jesus. So then when the full moon happened, he's like, all right, I'm gonna try to connect with her. And he went into a meditation. The thoughts, the head noise was coming out of his head like was not Justin. It was so fucking bizarre. And that was basically, he was linking with her. And it freaked him out so bad to the point where he was like, okay, yeah, fuck you. I'm done. I'm not doing this. And he tried so hard to walk away from it. But when we went to New Orleans, she was just like, hey, girl, hey, I'm in New Orleans with you, bitch.
Yeah, I was just, I was talking to her and just trying to like, hey, hi, how you doing? Type thing. Yeah. And she's like, who the fuck are you? Are you coming here or are you not? Because fuck off. Like, I've already been saying hey, and you've been ignoring me. And I really, like, her thing is just like, you need to face death. You need to make peace with who you are. And that darker side of myself, darker side, in quote, air quotes. And in New Orleans, it just really became cemented that I knew that like this shit's fucking right. Like it's just right. It just is. But it's
also I think that I watched you go through Peyton's anniversary, his birthday, the whole damn thing, and you basically shut yourself away, didn't really talk to me all that much, and just kind of did your whole thing alone, which I totally gave you the space to do. But I'm like, if he's not going to talk his way through this time period of the year, every year he's just going to be miserable for a whole month. Like and I think that she kind of stepped in like, hey baby, let me help you deal with this.
Yes,
I know that
100%.
You need help dealing with this, and I'm here to, let's shadow work it, let's work through it, let's walk through it together, so you're not doing it alone. And when Justin finally accepted, like, okay, I have somebody to help me walk through the death of my son, and every year we'll get a little bit, not better, because it really doesn't get better, but I have someone there to walk through it with me. And instead of just walking through it, not that you're really walking through it alone because you have Rachel, but you two are alone walking through it together. To have someone there to say, hey, boo, I'll hold you guys' hands while we walk through this month. You know, it's going to make that time of year that much different for you to have her by your side, whether she ends up being your matron or not, or if later on down the road, 20 years down the road, she's, like a guy on the side step, she will always be there that month to walk you through that month, which I think is really, really important, that you really need to recognize is that she's not here to, hinder you. She's here to harness you.
Correct.
And I think that was something you need to come to the realization. I think that's what happened in New Orleans. You're like, oh, well, fuck. And I think that's why you came back a renewed witch after that experience.
Yeah, because it's just, I feel like she helps me connect to him in a different way. It feels, I want to say organic, but it's not organic. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels different. I was
thinking the word natural, like very natural.
Yeah, like it's normal.
Yeah.
It feels like she's literally just like, here, effortless. That's how it feels. It just feels effortless. Where before it felt like I had to pull a little bit, but we set up our own walls and our own boundaries, whether we want to realize it or not. We can, self-detonate and be self-destructive and, to prevent ourselves from doing things that we need to do. So I find that she helps me with that, but it's just, remembering that and being like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So she's very helpful when it comes to anything that has to do with my ancestors, and specifically, dealing, grieving, and accepting death, and kind of not my obsession with death, but my affinity for death, my respect for it, my understanding of why it's necessary, and my questioning of what happens when we die. Yeah. And, I think that does tie in with divinity, but what does happen to us when we die? I don't know. But I still feel him here, whether that's him or that's me, feeling whatever energy that was still here when he was alive.
Yeah.
I've had in my experience, like with my job and going to a scene where someone has passed on, time and time again, you can just feel that there's no energy there. So, and what I mean by that is like whatever is making me or Aunt Hilda, and whatever is making you Brittany and you Justin, whatever that divine spark is, it's just gone. Mm-hmm. I don't feel it. Like I can feel it from you guys right now, and we're on screens. And after going to so many death scenes and so many deathbeds, it has solidified for me that there is something, and I don't know what it is, but there is something that leaves our bodies when we die. Because whatever that spark is, that life, that soul, it's gone. It's gone to another place, and I can feel it when I go there. And I feel it when you go to get somebody, and it's a shell. Like our bodies, I truly believe are shells. I really do. And I don't know what our soul is. I don't know where we go. But I truly believe, truly believe from my own life experience that something does move on.
Right.
I cannot agree with you more. The morning my son died, and not to make this about Peyton, it's not, but I felt that. Even, I never been through something like that. Losing a child was my greatest fear, and I lived through that. But even in those moments, as traumatic as they were, I just knew he wasn't there, which was confusing to me because that's not how I thought I would feel if it would ever happen. Right. It was a question that I asked his body, and I continue to ask, is where are you? Mm-hmm. Where are you? Where is he? And it's just, I feel him. So I know he's somewhere. Definitely. But it's just so interesting because as you said before, as far as like divinity and, the archetypes and, as human nature wanting to have all the answers, we come up with all these, scenarios of a promised land or heaven or hell or, Avalon or whatever it is you believe. Because we want to believe and think and have faith that we know what's going to happen. And it's just so interesting when you're faced with that on such a molecular level like that, where it's so intense and every second feels like a year, you just don't know. Yeah. You just don't know. And it's so strange. I think about it often, like you're here and then you're not.
Well, here's the weird thing about that, here and then not, and then feeling someone. The only people that I haven't lost a child, so I can't even fathom what that's like. But I've lost both parents. I don't have parents, and I know Dana and I have a very strong connection. Dana and I will forever have a strong bond because, our parents died in the same place, which is bizarre because I've never met Dana in real life. Wow. My mother died in a hospital. I think it was the same hospital her mother was at. Very bizarre, in Port Townsend, Washington. It's crazy. But when my mother died, she had ovarian cancer, and when you have cancer, it's different than getting like hit by a bus. You know, when you have a disease, you know, you've mentally kind of prepared somewhat for them possibly dying. So when she died, it wasn't as hard. It was still extremely hard, but it wasn't as hard as it would be if it was like a tragic car accident or something of that matter. But you know, about 2 weeks after she had passed away, I was lying in bed, and I told my husband the story. I'm like, "You're gonna think I'm crazy." He's like, "Just tell me." And I told him the story. He didn't think I was crazy, thank God.
Good
but
man.
I said last night, you know how I love my sleep. I do not wake up strangely out of a weird sleep. But I woke up and I looked to the side, and there was a shadow figure. And I always thought if I saw a ghost, I'd be terrified, but I wasn't. It was a shadow figure kind of looking at me. And then when I just looked at her and I nodded, she turned around and walked away in front of the bed and walked out the door. And I think to this day, I'm still, the energy I felt, she was checking on me to make sure, can I go? Like, are my kids okay? I believe she visited my brother and she visited me that night to make sure we were okay before we passed on.
Definitely.
And I will never, it's the only ghost I've ever seen in my life. I know what I saw. It was not me dreaming. I was wide awake because I just snapped my eyes open. I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, I had the energy
like you're naturally predispositioned to check out the logical of it. So
yes,
when someone like you says, I had this experience, I believe that because you would have already kind of thought about that. Like, what is this? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want
we interrupt each other all the time. It's normal.
Don't you ever interrupt us again. You'll never be on this show again. Don't you ever do it.
Man.
So, you know, when I knew it was her, the weird thing is, you know, the energy when you see it, you know, I was just like, oh, it's my ma, like, whatever. And she's just kind of looked at me like, but there was no face or anything. It was just a shadow. There was no face, no nothing. And I just remember going and nodding, and she went, and she turned around and she walked in front of the bed and walked out the door, and that was it. You know, but the weird thing is, my mother and I did not get along at all. We were completely two different people. We fought a lot. But there's one thing, and this is going to sound silly to most, but there's one thing that her and I connected on, because we disagreed on everything, literally everything we disagreed on. We're very much two different people. The one thing we connected on was music. We were concert buddies. We went to concerts together. We fell in love with, it's going to sound funny to some people, Meatloaf, the artist Meatloaf.
I love it.
And I remember I was a kid, and he came on, that was back when MTV and VH1 still played music videos. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. Came on the screen. I was, I think I was cleaning. I was doing my chores or something, and it came on the TV, and I sat down at the coffee table, and I watched it. And I was just in awe by this guy. Like, the vocal ability, like, the song ability. I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And I remember just being, like, in a trance, like, watching this Meatloaf guy. And granted, he came about in the 70s, but, I mean, I wasn't born yet, so I didn't know him. My mother had known of him, though, right? So I told my mother, I was probably, like, maybe 12 to 11. Like, I love Meatloaf. She's like, you love Meatloaf? Like, what? And so I was telling, the artist, and she's like, oh, yeah. He's from the 70s. He came back? Because that was during his comeback. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I saw this music video. So she started falling in love with it, and I started falling in love. We were Meatloaf concert whores. Her and I went to every Meatloaf freaking concert in the New England area. It was ridiculous. That and Rod Stewart and Elton John. The three of those, Meatloaf, Rod Stewart, and Elton John, we were there. If it was in New England, we were there. And so now when an Elton John song comes on, or Meatloaf, or anything on the radio, I start tearing up, because it feels like when I'll be driving my car, I feel like she's fucking sitting in the passenger seat. And it's an energy. It's like she's fucking sitting there rocking out to me and fucking Rod Stewart or some shit.
Yeah.
But it's weird because, like, I was driving to work and an Elton John song came on that my mother made me do a talent show in elementary school too. And I hadn't heard that song since I did the fucking talent show, because it's not a song that would be popular on the radio. And I'm like, oh shit, really? Right? I'm trying to go to work. Really? Come on.
Really? Can we do this after work?
But she does. She visits me through song, through those three artists. And it's so bizarre. They'll connect with you through a certain way. There's something that you'll do or hear. Whatever they connect with you in this life, they will connect with you still in that same way.
Yeah. 100%.
I agree completely with that. I really think that I kind of come from the school of thought that we're all like somehow tethered to each other in a way. Like, once you've had a connection with someone, like, you're kind of always spiritually tethered. And I really, really believe our loved ones, like, they show us little ways, just like the gods. They show us these little ways, and they kind of come in and give us little signs. And unfortunately, we're taught to ignore those signs.
Yeah.
And part of, I think, being a witch is reclaiming that and saying, no, like, I believe when I get these signs that this is my loved one or this is the divine or what have you. Because I think if you go your whole life trying to be almost too logical, you'll miss them.
Well, that's my downfall, is being too logical and too analytical. It puts a wall up between you and divinity. Or I honestly believe that being too analytical, and it's a Virgo in me, is it blocks my power. It blocks my ability to do what I need to do and what I know that I can do. So it's like trying to pull that back. And that's like the signs from Hecate. I was just ignoring it. And then we were on a one in Witchcraft. It may have been one with Dana, I'm not sure. But I was just like, this frog problem is getting out of control. And then everyone starts asking questions. Well, what's going on? I'm like, I'm getting all these frogs. I'm getting snakes outside my door. I'm having crows swoop down while I'm driving down the road. Like, it's continually happening. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you not paying attention to who's trying to, connect with you? No, I'm just annoyed. Okay? I hate frogs.
It's like, I'm tired of being attacked by crows.
Right. Like, what is happening?
But he would send me these pictures and I'd be like, okay, and he'd be like, what the fuck with the frogs? What the fuck with the snakes? I'm like, bitch, I've told you over and over again, Hecate is in your fucking house. You need to fucking speak with her and she'll stop the frogs and the snakes. Until then, enjoy sweeping off the snakes and the frogs.
Like, one dead frog or snake's okay, but several, it's like a little bit like, all right, like, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah. Okay. Dana said, yeah, it was me. I remember that conversation. Yes. So, and literally once I said, I think it was after the live, I was like, hey, like, very cautious, not believing it. Okay, let's be real. Hey, I get it. Can we stop with the bullshit? We get it, because she wasn't impressed by that, form of communication. But after I actually started talking, the frog problem is gone. I don't have a frog problem anymore. The snakes are gone. Thank you, Jesus. I do. There's been a couple of days where I've had like big things at work or interviews, and I go outside and I have a lamppost outside of my townhouse, and I sent it to Brittany, because when I talk about it, it's like, I want you to know I'm not making this shit up. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, look at this. And she's like, well, I'm glad Hecate shows up to the party, because Gaia just wants to check out. And I'm like, okay, really?
So Karen is saying she's always sensed when someone is going to die. I've done this since I was a kid. So that brings up a really important kind of question as far as Deity is concerned. Do you guys believe that these senses that we have to either sense when someone's going to die, or read the tarot, or scry, or do any kind of divination, is that connected to our connection with Deity, or is that something that is part of our spiritual system that we're born with? Like, how you have like Long Island Medium, that TV show, what fake or real, I really honestly don't know. You have some mediums that are fake. We know that. We have some, charlatans in the world. But I do believe that there are some mediums that are 100% fucking legit as fuck.
I agree.
Where does that come from? Does that come from a relationship with Deity?
Hail Satan.
Satan.
When I was younger, so this is going to sound weird, nothing like the dying thing, but I'm not even going to say the word because the word is used too much, but I used to be able to connect to people's feelings, and I could understand how people were feeling and help them resolve issues. And there was this, now as I've gotten older, I have not honed in on that craft, and I've lost it completely. So I'm not able to access it. But we were in this van for this, someone that we were going to school with. I already knew Rachel. She was with me. We were in this lady's van, and in the middle of driving down the road, I felt like I was having a heart attack, lost all my breath. I literally thought I was going to die. Okay. And then it just went away. And I used to be very big into meditation. I was still living with my parents, still very much oppressed by Christianity, but I used to meditate because I felt like I had this ability that I didn't understand. And I thought that if I meditated, it would help expand that ability. And it did. And then the next day, that girl wasn't there. And then the next day she wasn't there. And the next day she wasn't there. Well, the van that we were in was her mother's, and her mother was in New York State. And that same day, her mother had a heart attack. Swear to God, swear on Hecate, swear on Peyton. It's the truth. Rachel was there. She can verify that this is true. That was the most intense experience I'd ever had like that. And I've never had an experience since. But like feeding into your question, I don't know. I'm opening a lot of doors towards the end of the show, but I don't know if I believe in reincarnation, but I do feel like when people die, our energy moves on to different life forces. So I do think that based on where the energy goes, I think skills do develop as that energy regenerates and changes. And I mean, Brittany, you and I have talked many times about feeling like we were related in the past, or we have this weird connection. Honestly,
I know people can meet each other through social media and meet in real life real life. I hate to say that word because honestly, I feel like the internet is still real life. But meet off the internet, should I rephrase that? Meet off the internet and be like, hey girl, hey, you have a connection, but not like Justin and I have had. I mean, Justin was my maid of honor in my wedding. I mean, I've been through his life. He's been there through mine, through the birth of my kids. I mean, Justin and I, and the funny thing is when I met him on YouTube, we chatted, via kind of something like this. I think it was like Skype back then. Yeah. We talked on the phone, and then my mother-in-law has always lived in Florida, so we came down here for vacation, and I said, hey, I'm in Florida, we should meet up. And it was like we had known each other from like elementary school. Like there was no awkwardness. Very much Tasha, what it was like when you came in the studio, we were talking beforehand. Like I was like, I don't feel uncomfortable at all. Like I feel this girl is like, I've known her forever. The same kind of thing. But like Justin and I were like, we just happened to like come out of each other's life after middle school or something, and we reconnected. It was like we had known each other our whole life. So it's later on, in our friendship, we were like, oh, I wonder if somehow we were connected in a past life or something, because the bond that we have after meeting each other through YouTube
15 years later.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
I think things happen for a reason. Like I am from that school of thought, and I really do think that there are people that I don't know, like I guess it is open and kind of like a big topic of reincarnation, but it's kind of like some days I believe in reincarnation, some days I don't. Today I do.
Yes. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
My own word contradiction.
I kind of, at least today, I feel like you can be born with certain people and you have that, because it's weird because you meet some people and you really truly feel like you can be yourself around them so openly and honestly and unapologetically. Yeah. And then you meet other people and you're like, ooh, I gotta really watch what I say and how I behave.
Yes.
And like, there has to be a reason for that comfort. There has to be, right? Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
There has to be something, or whether it's just our souls recognize each other for whatever reason, or, you have that affinity to one another. But I just think there's that to me is what magic is, like those connections and those, like abilities to, like, that is how, in my mind, magic manifests in the real world, is how we connect with other people and feel that weird soul connection. I don't know how else to explain it.
Do you think
I can't either? It's the most bizarre thing, even for Karen and I, who are in a different kind of relationship. Our birthdays are exactly the same day, and the bond that I have with Karen, not just because of her birthday, I mean that's an added plus, but the bond that I have with Karen was instantaneous. I've never met her in real life. Every year on our birthday, we send each other care packages as birthday because we share the same birthday. We're twinnies, and it's weird because that bond that her and I have is like we were supposed to be together when we were born, but we were born a couple years apart. Yeah. It's a weird, bizarre energy that I will never figure out, but I just know that that's somehow on another realm or something, like my soul sister, because she was born on the same day as me. And a lot of people are born on the same day as each other, but there's a difference between me and Karen that I can't, and we're born, like we're in the same, living in New England in the same area. it's just weird. It's very strange.
So do you ladies think that deity plays a role in that? Do you think?
I think so. I think that I think they put us together for a reason. They put people in certain situations, like puppets. Like, I'm going to put this person over here and put this person over here, and them two are going to meet because they need each other further on, maybe 20 years down the line. They're going to need each other, so we're going to make them best friends so that they can have each other. Because right now, I got no time for these bitches because they're petty. So I need to go over here to these bitches.
So with that kind of mindset, though, do you think all these archetypes or historical figures are all energy sources back to one specific maybe not deity in the way we think about deity, but in an all-powerful energy, whatever that may be? Do you think they all filter to there, or?
I think so. Like, I look at celebrities, right? Like, I'm obsessed with Anthony Bourdain. So
me too, girl. Oh my god,
he's always been my number one celebrity, right? So I was fascinated, like you probably were.
I love him.
And since he's died, I've taken, like, if I want to work with like Lucifer kind of energy, I will work with Anthony Bourdain. Like, I will put his pictures on my altar. I will light candles in front of them. I will pray to him, ask for his guidance or whatever, like from reading tarot cards. And I feel like, because he embodies to me the archetype of the rebel, the badass.
Yes. Lucifer, the no bullshit. Like, I ain't going to pretend to be someone I'm not. Yes.
And Lucifer is very much that way. You know,
the rebel.
Like indulgence. And Anthony Bourdain said, like, your body's an amusement park. So have fun with it. And that to me is something Lucifer would say. So I look at him and I go, okay, well, there's an archetype of that deity right here, someone who is alive in my time that I can connect to. And I think that there are people that we hold in esteem or that we kind of put on pedestals that reflect those deity type energies.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a way that archetypes still are playing a popular role, and I do think there's a connection between these archetypes and these gods. I really do.
I agree 100%. I really, really do.
Yeah, and you know, I put Anthony Bourdain kind of in the same bucket as Robin Williams, only because you think to yourself they have it all. You know, Anthony Bourdain was kind of like the bad. I mean, I watched all his shows. I adored him, and you know, I watched him have this self-confidence about himself, like he was the man of culture, the man of food, the man of living, the man of travel. And to take his own life, I kind of put him in the same thing as Robin Williams. We thought he was the man of comedy, the man of care, the man of nurturing the soul. And to find out he killed himself, I'm like, you know, these two people were almost too good for this time, too good for this world, and they knew it.
Yeah, I agree.
They gave what they could give until they were spent.
You know, I think of people like that. I think a lot, particularly like comedians and people who are inherently funny. I always have this interpretation that they're filters, and I always picture them as people who usually grow up in negative situations, experience negative things in their life, whether they're attracted to it or they're placed in those situations.
Definitely.
Because I feel like they naturally know how to take that energy and create something new. But it's almost like a curse because it's hard for those people to live a productive life within themselves. You know what I mean? But it's almost as if it's a service to others. And that may be wrong to say, but that's just always been my interpretation. It's always the funniest people, the most driven people that seem to be the most hurt.
Right. And I feel like, honestly, at this point, Stevie Nicks, if you're watching this ever in your lifetime, please come out as being a fucking witch, because we're over it. You know. We know, Stevie. Okay, we're your family, and we know you're a witch. So can you please just come out and just admit it?
Can I also say that as a young, I thought gay at the time. I am bisexual. Man, I did fantasize about Mork.
Who?
You know, Mork.
Like,
who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
The alien.
Yeah, Robin Williams, bitch. You're the fakest fucking bitch ever. I used to fantasize about Mork eating my ass. I'm just gonna say it.
Okay. Wait,
I did.
What are we shoving up our ass tonight? Since the show's almost over, what's going to be shoved up the ass tonight?
I got my girthy cat here.
There we go. Tasha's got your butt plug. Hail Tasha.
I mean, deity is just such a heavy topic. It really is. Karen saying more. It is a heavy topic, and it's definitely a topic that keeps giving for sure, because I think it's so specific. And I do like what Tasha said is this new generation, Brittany and I talk about the good old days all the time, but the way things are now is just so much better. It's so much more aware of how specific it is to each person, to everybody.
And I hope that this show can help anybody, whether you've been in the craft for a day or you've been in the craft for 100 days or more. Like, I really hope this show can help anybody. We have the insight in mind of Tasha, of Justin, and myself to kind of help you along in either picking a deity or letting them find you. Whatever you choose to do, none of it's wrong. That's the kind of message that we're kind of getting across. You do you, boo, is really the whole point of this deity work. You do you. If you want to wait till they come to you and meditate and find them, by all means, do it, girl. There's no wrong way.
I feel like if you feel a connection to that deity, that's good enough. You don't have to, you don't need validation from, you don't need someone else to tell you it's okay to worship that deity or that deity's calling to you. Don't let people gatekeep your deities.
Okay. I need to bring this. I know we're already at 10. Hold on. I know we're already at 10:30. Is Karen saying she wants to go deeper? I kind of want to keep going if you ladies are okay, because I have another question that I really feel like we need to ask.
Okay.
And I do want to preface this by, we are 3 cisgendered white people, so it's all a relative conversation.
Yes.
Can we elaborate on the gatekeeping and the perception of cultural appropriation? You talked about it a little bit with, your experience, and Brittany and I have had private conversations about the whole hoodoo and trying to connect. What is your opinion? Because this is all opinions, because this could be very controversial. So I just want to say this is opinions, and we're open to all opinions here. We're just having a conversation.
Yes, please indulge us, Tasha.
I think I want to just be careful here. But
I agree
that I believe in cultural appreciation. So what I mean by that is that it's not okay for me to do anything that someone in a specific culture has to earn to have. It's not okay for me to pretend that I'm an expert of someone else's culture or religion or deities. But I think it is okay if I have a healthy connection in relationship, and I acknowledge the fact that this deity does not belong to me, but I have a connection. I see it like an adoption, and that it's no different than being adopted by that deity and having that deity say, no, you know what, Tasha, we connect. Anubis, for example, I love Anubis wholeheartedly and deeply, and I come from a place of respect, and I'm never going to take that away from someone of that culture or try to act like I know more. But I think that my connection is just as valid as someone else's. And I think that it goes beyond our race, our gender, our sexual identities. I just feel that as long as you can go about it in a way that is respectful and you don't act like you own it, I think it's okay. And I'm scared even saying that, because I just don't want it to come off like, I think you have to be so careful. And I think as white people, we have a history of just taking and taking and taking.
Yes.
And cisgendered people, we take, and we just assume that it's okay because that's what our society deems okay. But I do think if you can come from a place of honesty and just being yourself, I don't mean to sound cliche, but I don't think our souls have genders and color or anything. And I think if you can come from a pure soul place, I think that that's okay, as long as you're doing it in a way. Like, I really like I like learning about Native American, indigenous myths from my community and the people that have lived here, and like the Wendigo and things like this.
Right.
But, like, I'm never gonna, and I'm gonna respectfully learn about that, but I'm never gonna say to someone, oh, well, I'm the expert on it. But I think I can still approach their culture with appreciation and be respectful to them and support indigenous businesses in New Brunswick and support those people in those communities and give my money to them. Like, I purchased this recently from an indigenous artist here, and it's a little sweetgrass goddess.
That's beautiful. Shit, totally, that's beautiful.
You know, I paid for this. I paid the artist, this beautiful, like, indigenous woman in her faith, and supported that. And I think it's okay that I have that on my altar because it's out of a place of respect. And I think it's a fine line. But I do think that if we don't appreciate other people's cultures, we could lose those cultures too. And that it's important. It's important that we share those and we appreciate them. I really think that wholeheartedly.
I 100% agree. And, I've been so drawn to hoodoo. And I agree that there is, I feel like there's a line that I'm allowed to cross. Not that I'm not allowed to cross. I'm sorry. It's a line that I'm allowed to come up to, and then I have to let that be what it is.
Right.
But I 100% agree, when I really started getting into the public's view of hoodoo and, the kind of mass produced version of hoodoo, because hoodoo is very specific to every lineage, every family. So it may not be true hoodoo. That's why I refer to it as, a mass compilation of what is called hoodoo. Right. And for me, there's been a lot of conversations on TikTok from POCs, people of color, talking about white people practicing hoodoo, and some are okay and some aren't. And, it really raised a question of why white people have a desire to involve themselves in other cultures. And this wasn't a negative question. It was just a general question. And for me, I've been drawn to hoodoo because there's something about it that makes me feel like, although I haven't actively, knowingly taken part in the oppression of people of color, my very existence can do that, whether I actively do so or not.
And we need to acknowledge that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And a part of me feels like what I need to do, not only for myself, but for the empowerment of that culture, is to revere it, because it was born out of the oppression of people who look like me, even though it wasn't me, people who look like me. So it's important for me to sit at that altar and thank those people of color and thank the ancestors and praise them and give them veneration, because they had to experience something that there was no reason for them to experience. So that's kind of my desire to read about, the transatlantic slave trade. And, we did a tour in Louisiana and really trying to understand what these people went through and connect with those energies to say, not be a white savior or an apologist, but to acknowledge it and empower it, because those experiences deserve to be heard, because the culture deserves to live, the tradition deserves to live, because it was born out of pain and oppression. And who am I to say I shouldn't involve myself? I should exalt it. That's how I feel. And say that this is a beautiful thing. So that's where I come from. And I do 100% agree with you. It's an appreciation. You have to understand it so deeply and really research it and respect it. But I do feel like as white people, there is a line that we just can't cross.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say I'm not a hoodoo practitioner. I'll never claim it.
But you add into your practice.
But I do add elements of it with respect and reverence and honor, because that's what they deserve. They deserve me to revere them. They deserve for me to come at them at a level beneath them, because that is what they deserve for how they were treated. That's how I feel.
And it's weird because when you say that, like, I've known you for what, like, oh, God, shit, like 17 years or something stupid, some bullshit like that. But when we went to New Orleans together, we were all drunk and having fun and blah, blah, blah. But the minute we set foot in Congo Square together, we left the kids and the husbands and the wives behind. They all did their thing. And Justin and I went to Congo Square. And we set foot in Congo Square. It was a rainy, dreary day. And Justin's persona, and this is why I can tell you he's absolutely genuine about honoring the ancestors that were the Atlantic slave trade, because when we set foot in Congo Square, Justin became very somber, very quiet, and in awe all at the same time. And, you know, we walked in Congo Square where they set their footsteps, where they used to meet on Sunday mornings and do their hoodoo and do their circles and drums and stuff. And then we went to the Igun tree, which is the oldest living tree in New Orleans, where, you know, it's still living in Congo Square. That tree was there when they were there. And when we reached that tree, Justin got very somber. You know, so for people of color to say that we as white people do not honor them, you're so fucking wrong. Because when we sat at that tree and Justin got very somber, I too got very somber. And we closed our eyes and we thought about the Atlantic slave trade. We thought about slavery. We were not there for that, obviously, but from all the knowledge we have embedded in our brains, we honored that. And we left an offering to show our respect. And both Justin and I both incorporate hoodoo into our practice heavily. I don't practice hoodoo as far as like being my sole thing. I'm still very much a pagan. I'm a pagan witch, heller. But yes, I'm an eclectic pagan, so I do pull. And one of the things I pull is hoodoo. And before I do any kind of hoodoo work in my workings, I make sure I do I close my eyes, I channel it, I say, you know, thank you for this culture, thank you for everything you went through, to allow it to survive, to make me know about it, because it's going to die to the point where eventually our people are not going to know about it. And whether you're white, orange, yellow, purple, I don't care what you are, we should all know about it and know the truth about it. So I personally, and I've been ridiculed on YouTube for practicing hoodoo, having hoodoo in my practice, and being a white girl. I have. And it's sad, because if anybody should bow down and practice and honor respect, it should be us. Yes. Okay? We should be honored the fact that we're bowing down and saying, you know what, thank you for your strength. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry for everything you went through. And thank you for who you are and for what you brought to our world. Yeah, it shouldn't be like, you're white, you should not practice hoodoo because you're white. No, it should be like, you know what, girl, thank you for honoring who I am, who my ancestors are. As a person of color, I would come to a white person who's practicing hoodoo and be like, you know what, you go, girl. You know, that's how I would.
It's hard though, because you can't. You know, when you grow up like that, it's. You're taught by your grandparents that you can't trust white people, you know, and they're taught by their grandparents, because, you know, as someone illustrated in the comments, you know, people of a Caucasian race have been known to colonize everything. I mean, we stole the Jews' religion to control the world is essentially what happened. So, you know, it's understandable why people of color have a huge reservation about us, you know, inserting ourselves into culture. Are you okay, Tasha?
Yeah, my phone was dying, so I just plugged it in. So I'm just giving you a little bedroom tour here.
You're okay.
Woo-woo! That's how the magic happens. Check that shit out.
Happens. Dance with the fairies, ride a unicorn sign back there.
You can totally tell which side is Tasha and which side is her husband's. You can totally tell. Look at that.
It should say ride a goat man.
Yes, girl. Honestly, the funny thing is, when you were talking, Justin, she was rearranging. I knew exactly what it was. I'm like, her battery died. I'm like, I know exactly what it is.
It was like, you know, low battery, and I'm like, no problem. And it's like 10%, and I'm like, shit, Tasha, you better actually plug that in. We're having an important conversation. It'd be really bad for me just to disappear in the middle of it. So.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's important to come to it with reverence. And like Karen said, I worked with an African-American woman who was Wiccan, totally connected to Celtic deities. No one questioned it. I mean, I get that, but I think in America and America's history with people of color, it's different. And sometimes it can be hard for white people to understand that, but it is different. Not saying that Irish people, Celtic people haven't faced oppression, because they have 100%. Italian people have, you know, people of color aren't the only people with dark skin color are not the only people who've faced oppression. But it's very real in our country, in North America, based on our own history. Yeah, and in Canada
too. Absolutely.
And I do want to say real quick, I mean, Tasha did touch on this and she can elaborate, but I don't want to forget, because so many times when we talk about cultural appropriation, appreciation, you know, and all that, we forget about the native people of this land and how they were murdered and slaughtered and all that. So I don't want them to go unnoticed and unappreciated.
That's a big problem. Not to derail our whole conversation, but I think it's very important as a Canadian to just point out that Canada likes to promote itself as like this really welcoming, positive melting pot of a country, which it is, and that's a beautiful thing. But the racism shown to the Indigenous people in our country today in 2021 is terrible, and it gets sometimes swept under the rug. And it needs to be, it just needs to be fixed. Like it's terrible what happens here, and that's why I find I can be a witch and I can be myself and I can be very open where I live. Like I don't have the issues that someone in the southern US may have being a witch, but I also think like I feel bad for the Indigenous population because they don't even have the same freedom that I have. Like I have more freedom to be a witch here than someone who's Indigenous who's been here forever. And I think that is terrible. And
that's so interesting to me, because I haven't heard anything about this. I after the live, you'll have to
honestly, Justin, how much do we talk to a Canadian? How often do we talk to a Canadian? We don't. That's why. That's why this was extra special to have her on the show, because it's not just a U.S. perspective, it's Canadian perspective. And that's what I loved about having her on the show. And I was hoping to God she said yes about asking her, because we're looking at a witch from a different country.
Well, it's just so interesting because pop culture, you know, everything's, you want to be Canadian. They're the nicest people ever. The only thing I've ever heard about something similar to that is in Australia. I know they have a very oppressive way of, you know, pushing down the Aboriginal people. And I mean, there's a lot of science to talk about. The oldest, you know, surviving civilizations are from Australia. So I wasn't aware of this in Canada. Honestly, I wasn't aware either. Of that.
This is all new news, but I'm glad it's been captured, because that's not right. I mean, I thought we were pretty shitty to our Indigenous people, to be honest with you.
We absolutely were. We stole the kids from the tribes and put them in these white schools and cut all their hair off.
I'm still working on some kind of resolution for the amount of Indigenous children that were forced into white schools in Canada, these like reform schools where they were forced to lose their culture. They had to learn English. They had to learn Christian values. They lost their faith. They lost everything. Like they were literally stripped of everything. And all they're asking is for some reconciliation. And we're finally seeing that in 2021, like just finally starting to. And I think it's so important that we show appreciation to these cultures. And again, it just goes back to that, like not appropriation. It's not okay to just take from them, but to show appreciation, to buy their art, to showcase their art, to support their communities. Like I think that it's so important that we do that. And it's not like that white superhero syndrome, you know, I'm going to come in and save your day. They don't need us. They don't need us. But if we can help, why not? Why not?
Right.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Canada's not innocent. We're lovely. We've got beavers, we got maple syrup, we got moose, we got
boners.
We got boners, we've got maple leaves. I mean, it's an amazing place. You know, Canada's awesome, but we're not as innocent as the media likes to portray us. That's for sure.
Oh, they very much in America they portray Canada as the ones who we're Canada. We don't get involved. You do you, boo. We're not getting involved in your drama, like whatever. And honestly, I don't. As perceiving that, I don't blame you because half the drama we get involved in, we really don't need to be involved in. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We get involved in so much drama. Like we are the drama queens of the planet. Like we get involved in everybody's drama. Like why? If they don't your drama, if they don't pay your bills, don't worry about it. Like we just be Canada. Like you know what? You do you, boo. You do you, boo.
But you know what? Bless America, because when we all need our asses saved, you guys step in and save us. So I gotta give you that.
True.
That is true. We do love our military here. You know. We do love to blow shit up.
We do like to blow shit up.
Like we're too busy out here farming maple syrup, so we need you guys to.
But the weird thing is, like the way I was born and raised, like I was born and raised as Canada was American. I know that sounds weird, but like I was born and raised as in Canada was us. Even though you're a separate country, like I just for some reason even today, 39 years later, like I'm like, okay, Canada's like just basically America. Like when I see you, Tasha, I'm like, yeah, you're Canadian, but you're one of us. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's weird. Like because there's like a border that's there, but like whatever, the border's whatever.
I find
it's not like it's like Mexico or
so
something.
Similar in a lot of ways. Like I always see like when I go into America, it's like family, like just going into my family's house. Like, you know, got some like my money's a little more colorful, but that's about it and worth nothing.
That's so true.
It's very similar and I love it. And then there's just like these weird, like little differences that I think are so funny and strange. Like,
and I have to agree with Karen's, you gave us hockey.
That's true.
As someone who's a diehard ice hockey fan, has the Boston Bruins tattooed on her fucking ankle. Hail to the Canadians. Hail to the Canadians.
On behalf of all of Canada, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I did want to ask on topic real quick. Last thing before we leave, because I know we're 30 minutes over almost. The last thing that I had on my list is just to talk about offerings. Mm-hmm. Because this was a topic to come up. So I kind of have had this question, and you know, I'm still learning to follow my intuition because I doubt myself. That's analytical brain working. Tell me about offerings, bitch. What the fuck?
Yes. So I have offerings for different gods. So Anubis, like as a funeral director, as living Anubis's life in my own way, I like to leave him booze. Because I like booze after a long day of work.
Yes.
So I will leave him like vodka or I'll leave him like wine or little things like that. Lucifer, I like to leave cannabis because, you know, it just became legal here. So it's still the devil's lettuce. So I like to leave cannabis for Lucifer. Mary likes pretty things, so I like roses for her, pearls. I like to put my jewelry out. Like if I've got like I've got a pearl necklace. It sounds a little naughty. But I've got a pearl necklace. And I like to put that like around her candles or like Nick's blood. Like if I cut myself, I will feed Nyx's candle blood. So I'll put blood on her candle. Or I have a black cloth that I'll soak the blood up with and keep that for her and then burn it and like burn my blood as an offering to her. I find she likes that. Mary's sweet smell. I work a lot, like, so at my job, I'm kind of the funeral director for the Muslim community here. So I work a lot with them, and they taught me about how they like to use camphor oils and sweet smells to bring angels in and to bring good spirits in. So I like to do sweet for Mary. Like that's something I learned from them. So sweet smells, or like I like to dedicate exercise. So if I'm going to go do a workout, I'll dedicate that to a god and say, okay, this workout's for you, because like I'm sweating and I'm tired and I'm putting effort for it. Sex, like orgasms, like are amazing offerings, right? Like, yeah.
I will say that I've only given one. Okay, hold on. So let me start. I normally give like incense to Hecate. I haven't even told Brittany this yet. So this is the first time she's going to hear this. One night I was feeling frisky.
Ooh.
Okay. So, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this on the internet.
Confession time.
Bitch, I told my sister on the internet, you can do too.
I put Hecate, that statuary right there on there, and I just cummed all over it.
Yes!
Yes!
That's an offering.
Yes!
I did. And I just felt like this energy that was unbelievable. It was amazing.
I loved it.
Finally! I feel like I've been waiting for this forever. Yes, finally, you some sex magic, motherfucker.
Yes.
Honestly, I was about to, I mean, I still may. I was doing a lot of sigil work today. And I was like, I need to masturbate with these sigils. But on the same line as what you were talking about. So a question that I have and a couple other people have had, and we'll wrap up here soon. I know it's getting late. The vodka, the booze, the food, what do you do? Do you consume it? Do you waste it? Do you bury it? Do you shove it up your ass? What do you do with it? And how do you know when to get rid of it? How do you know when to dispose of it?
I know, right? So it sits around. So I typically will I'll pour it on the wick of the candle. So when I light it, it's like, because the alcohol lights on fire. So like I like dazzle and pizzazz. So if I can get a little pizzazz out of something, I'm going to do it. The weed, like I leave for Lucifer, just gets old and gross and full of wax because it's in the candle. So I typically will leave things on the altar until I stop feeling like they're potent. Like when I start to feel like that's just clutter sitting there, I'll move it off. I like to take any leftover offerings, like if I'm leaving rose petals, cannabis, dried herbs, I like to burn them in my cauldron later on and just kind of release them and start over again. I used to be of the school of thought of leaving items outside. So I was really bad for like putting herbs outside or putting like pouring milk outside and stuff like this. But then I've discovered that that's not always the best thing for the wildlife. And I've kind of stopped doing that. So I love fire. I love burning it. So I think the fire will consume it, transform it into something else. And then it kind of reignites that magic that I put into that original offering. And then it just disappears and goes into the other, if you will. I'm a little buzzed now. So I hope I'm making sense.
We love buzzed here. We love buzzed.
Yes.
I mean,
that
helps.
Is the way.
That definitely helps. I mean,
I'm drinking that New Brunswick mead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have about 3 minutes left. I figure we'll wrap up at 11. 2 hours. What a long show. I have had so much fun.
That's because Tasha is the shit. Like that was it was so much fun to have her on the motherfucking show. Like seriously, like that was genius of me. Thank you so much for me to me the idea.
Was so starstruck.
I quit.
I was just like, I can't believe they're asking me to be on their show. Like, I said to my husband, I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to become famous.
But for those of you who don't know Tasha and are not subscribed to her, subscribe to this bitch.
Yeah,
seriously. Like, she's the shit. I've fangirled over her like for
low quality entertainment. My channel's for you.
No, like your channel's not low quality entertainment. Your channel is what I was talking to Justin about, like real, like person being real. I don't do the fluff. I don't do the manufactured, beauty camera aesthetics, and I want someone to come on the camera and just be motherfucking real. Just be yourself.
Yeah. This is it.
That's what I gravitate towards, and that's when I first found your channel like 2 years ago. I was like, oh, this bitch is in my tribe. Shit, subscribe.
Yes. Well, thanks.
So everybody else needs, if you're not subscribed, Get on it, bitch.
So, yes, please. And don't forget, everyone, to go subscribe to the Wine and Witchcraft YouTube. Go subscribe to Tasha. We only have a few minutes left. Tasha, is there anything you wanted to say? Is there anything left you wanted to touch on before we close out the show?
I want to thank you guys, first of all. I want to go to New Orleans someday with you guys and have amazing drinks and have lots of fun. So when the world opens up, can we please do that?
Yes.
Can we come to Canada?
We'll go maple syrup farming.
Yes, that would be so much fun.
We'll look for beavers. Well, oh yeah. No doubt about it.
What kind of beavers are we talking about, honey?
Whatever you want, honey. I just appreciate you guys having me. I had so much fun tonight. I was so nervous, and you made it so easy to talk to you. And I just, honestly, I'm blubbering, but I had a great time, and I just really appreciate it. I had so much fun.
You're very welcome. We had a blast with you, girl. I mean, it is an asset to us. We're fangirling more than you are. We're like, oh my God, Tasha's on our show. You should have heard Justin all last month. Okay, is it May yet? Is it May yet?
Yes.
I think. Is it May yet? I'm like, bitch, hold your shit.
We're here. So we did it.
Super excited for the show. I'm super glad you decided to come on our show because honestly, you were like, I'm feeling it at the moment.
Anytime you need a little Canadian sass, you let me know.
I'm glad you said that because I want to tell you, I want to officially invite you to our 1-year anniversary show in July. If you want to appear, we're going to have a couple guests on. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
I'm there.
We don't have a date yet, but our anniversary show, we would love to have you back on, honestly.
We're going to have an anniversary show with all of the guest stars that we adore the most. So you are definitely in that. We want you to be here with us in July. We'll give you more details later. But hey, y'all, Tasha is going to be on the anniversary show.
Canada and America reunited again.
Yes, of course. So we're going to go, we do need to wrap up here on the live, but again, this lady right here, don't sleep on this hoe. Don't sleep on her. You got to go subscribe to the Wine and Witchcraft Instagram and to the YouTube. And don't forget the bloodbathproducts.com, 15% off, WAW15. 15% off your whole order. It was an amazing, amazing, amazing show. Oh my God, I had so much fun. This was
I'm getting some bloodbath in my life.
Yes. So thank you. Thank everyone. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you, all the viewers. We had such a blast. I hope you guys have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.